Hey everybody, this is me and Chris and George, and we're going to go over George's and my latest kadoban game. Take it away, Chris.
Alrighty. Hi. This is the most recent kadoban game, and this I think is the first time I've seen George just dive into the corner. I was expecting to see George play like the double approach, or I was expecting to see maybe this one is also a common shape. A lot of times back in the day, we would see approach one time and then enclose to make topside smaller. This one is also an interesting move. It's playable. The key important thing to know about this shape, though, is that white gets to walk away from this Sente. So just something
And
to
that's
be
not
aware.
too much for black?
No. So at this stage, because white can choose which direction white wants to go, and white's already at the outside, white can play away. And like even if black spends one more move, a lot of times white will even just play away again and just completely leave them for later.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is one of the new sort of AI inventions as of like 2020-ish. When Kadogo first came out, it was recommending this a lot in similar shapes in pro games. Because it's very expensive for black to keep spending moves here to, like, let's just show how many moves away black would have to play to completely kill white.
Yeah.
And when you look at how many moves, white got 4 moves elsewhere in exchange for the 4 stones. So white didn't really lose anything.
Okay. I have another question that we've already passed by here. Let's I'm gonna play this.
Okay.
Okay. How do we get this? Let's do it this way. There we go. I would think of this as the small side.
Yes.
And yet, you had us playing here and here, the small side.
Yep.
Why is this?
It dissuades the pincer. So now it's dissuading the pincer. So it's a way that black would play in the opening when black doesn't really want white to come in on the top side, like to pinch and start a fight. We would treat the F17 stone lightly and enclose towards the upper side to make the upper side smaller, using a corner-friendly move. And then if white does follow up on the top side, we can play away because
just a second. Just a second. So
small.
you're saying black. So I'm trying to equate this with the position. Are you saying it's good in both cases or only good in one case?
It's good in one case, playable in the other. But the main idea is, after, like, you're not doing it after the corner is already established. You're doing it beforehand. So here, when white backs off, we can think about A as a preparation to attack B from the top. So pros back in the day would defend it like this. But then pros realize this move is a bit slow, and white can still pinch from the top. So professional players start doing this one. And this one is popular for a while, but then the framework is really hard to deal with. They don't like side-friendly. So they pull the stone all the way back here and say, okay, I'm just going to locally develop the star point stone, independent of the A stone. But now if you pinch it B, I don't care if the top side's small.
Okay. Okay. Next, since we're dissuading, why not fourth line?
Also possible. I've seen Omain 9 down specifically play this one a lot. I think that's just a matter of style. This is just the one that was more popular in the early 2000s.
Okay, good. Well, great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, at least from the pro games that I would see at like highest level. But that's just sort of the whole board strategy behind it. But yeah, so here white can walk away with Sente. From now, white doesn't have to answer. Black pushed again, which is actually a pretty rare move. Normally, black doesn't put the A stone in. Normally, if we want to play towards the left, we just slide to B nowadays. Because your stone is almost already in an attacking stance, George. You give the stone more damage if you force white's wall to become thicker. It's going to be much harder to use that stone effectively.
I see.
That's because the distance that stone has to travel to the center, it now has to go, if it wants to get ahead of white, it has to be even thinner. So instead of jumping to A, it would have to do something like B, which is going to leave more weakness behind on one. It's sort of the main idea. But this one, now when the white pinches, it's just kind of, okay, that stone is a throwaway stone. We can revert it to something that looks like a Joseki, and then later we can use the stone as really, for example. So black kind of pivots and sacrifices that stone, whereas this one, you could do it, but you make white's wall a little bit better. Hane is also, of course, playable. White's building the really big wall. Although the thing to consider with this wall, you give black less points, but you leave the weakness. If white extends again, black gets slightly more points, but white doesn't have a weakness. So that's a bit of a preference. In a handicap game, leaving the weakness behind makes sense. You want black to try to attack it so you can fight something effectively and make up the difference.
Okay. What do you think about his contact here?
It's very rare without the K4 stone, but at the same time, the left side is also not super valuable, so I don't think it's bad. It's just a very interesting direction whenever I see it. I would evaluate it as okay. It's at least 80%. I don't know if it's going to be better, say this or this one, but
when he contacts, I'm sorry, George, go ahead.
It's the AI's preferred move.
Yeah, it looks like something that I've seen Katago do.
Don't we want to say that the left is small, so black's forcing white to take it?
Yep. Except it's this contact play doesn't actually force white to take the left side, because white doesn't have to Hane. And actually, a lot of times in handicap games, white won't even answer it.
Okay.
Because yeah, black takes the corner, but guess what? You don't have any future on the left or the bottom with it. So it's just a corner territory. White can break the other two. So yeah, when white is playing the bend and extend, this one is possible. Of course, we've already got the C12 stone. We would like to use that stone sort of in earnest, but white kind of really wants there to be this block already, I feel like. Like if white had some exchange here where black was like forced to live, it's really good for white because white can push.
Right.
But without that, when the white goes for the push, at any point, black is going to have this move from behind. And it's quite big if black ever finds the timing to sneak that in between the sequence.
George and I had quite a conversation about this white A, the extension white makes from this group, which is not B, now it's A.
Yeah.
Good, bad?
It's okay, I think. We have to remember it's a handicapped game. So even though A would not be considered a proper move, A is an appropriate move given the difference in skill. I think between the two, like white could also even consider just playing the thick shape. As long as white is doing something that's going to allow white to leverage the cut in the future, then it's going to be fine. This is not going to be the reason white loses the game, even if it's a little bit slow. The difference in skill should make up for the move being slow.
Why does it make more sense in a handicap game? Is that because it opens up the cuts?
Simply put, it's because you're the weaker player and you're going to make more mistakes if you have to make more decisions. When white fixes the group, white doesn't have to make more decisions.
Okay, I was thinking more that if white leaves some kinds of weaknesses behind, then black's going to try to fight, and that complicates the game.
Sure, so that's black's if that's black's tendency. But in this case, white can also aim to start the fight by fixing the weakness. So here it's a case of I'm going to fix the weakness, and then I have a fight with a push and cut that I can start. Or I'm going to fix the weakness, you're going to fix the weakness, and I'm going to get sente from this whole exchange. Both of those results should be acceptable for white.
Okay, so you are suggesting that A is a little slow. Is C8 also a little slow?
Yes. The only difference between the two is that C8 is more directly impactful with the cut.
Okay, so what's the fast way then?
The fast way is always going to be go to the center. So just push and move out.
Okay.
Yeah, or just Tanuki.
Okay.
Yep.
I really need to be thinking more flexibly. You and I have gone over this so many times, and I tend to get really locked into old ways of thinking.
Why are we doing this, George? Let me ask you a question. I hand you a 9mm revolver. Is the first thing you're going to do with the gun shoot yourself in the foot?
I hope not. I think if I was in this situation a few months ago, I probably would have been thinking of sacrificing the F-17 stone. But I've seen that when reviewing my games with AI, I've just seen the AI just lived without much of a problem.
Sure, but we have to understand that it's not that simple with the AI, right? We're human, and we have limits to what we can calculate. So we have to use heuristics to decide whether we should move a stone or not. And here's the big difference, right? You're somewhere in the realm of 1Q to EGF 4 done. Lance is AGA 5 done plus. That skill gap means that if you start a fight that's favorable for white should be able to handle the fight a lot better than black here. And this is definitely a favorable fight for white. It's not to say black can't live, but it's a matter of should black live. Like, here's the thing. You have Desane Connect, which if white really wants that area, it's going to be Sente. White's going to fix, right? But then you can check him from this side. Okay, white plays some move to fix. And then later on down the line, you might even have some moves like this or something like this. And how many moves is white going to play passively to take that one stone? You can see every time black adds an exchange to the whole situation via encroachment or coming from the outside, the area is getting smaller naturally. You're not forcing the issue. And this concept of natural play is really important. It's not very natural for black to move the stone in this position. It's not a very organic move, simply because your star point and your right side are not developed for the fight yet. You have no preparation. But when we look at white is perfectly developed for the fight. That's literally what all of white's moves have been for.
Yeah, and presumably if I played the same move in an even game, you would still stall me for playing this move?
Probably. Although against an even opponent, it might be a little bit easier for you to handle, but the idea remains the same. If you're going to start a fight or try to live here, you should have a reason for that. When we're living inside an opponent's area, like, invasions are done for two reasons. The first reason is the whole board reason. You need to balance the territory. So my opponent has more cash than me. I need to disrupt some territory and get some points back to make the balance of territory even. And the second reason we invade is to create a tactical destabilization of my opponent's groups. But neither of those cases are applicable here. You're not invading to sacrifice the invasion to leave a weakness in the opponent's position. And you're also not really needing to balance the territory because you're the only person with territory on the board right now.
Okay.
So this move comes off as greedy. And it's just giving white the opportunity to use what white has.
Right.
Now, this white move is 100% baiting you to fight him here.
Yeah.
He wants this fight. Because white's looking at the situation like, if he starts the fight with me, I'm going to have things like the descent in Sente. I'm going to be able to squeeze him from the top side. I'm going to build up naturally to break the 2 area. The right side's not going to be anything. Like, you're laying the groundwork for white to play the rest of the game without having to put much effort behind it.
Okay.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
So first, what if we put this white stone at D1, D18?
Sure.
Sente for the corner?
Yeah, black's, because you played C10, black's probably going to answer.
Now we play our L16 again. Saying everything's the same.
Yeah, more or less. Black still has Hana and Connect on the first line, so there's still an encroachment. Black can still force from the outside here. And just assuming, of course, white defends, black can still force from the outside here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. White L16.
Mhm.
If it's one closer to the wall, would that be overconcentrated?
A little bit, yeah. Because I think in such cases, black will not hesitate to strike here.
Yeah.
I think this one becomes very easy for black, because if white is playing something like this, then black has the natural vital point that works and creates the base inside. This is gonna, not necessarily black is gonna live, but now black is creating weaknesses in white shape, namely this wedge. George, just so you can understand, this is not an invasion where black is trying to live. This is an invasion where you're creating weaknesses inside white's area. You're probably sacrificing the two stones. But because the two stones are in such great relationship with each other, they're going to have many liberties inside. It's going to cost white a lot of moves to capture them. These are all benefits to black in the fight. With the else,
if white went one further over to the right, say it's M16, made it even bigger.
in that case, black can live easily, and there's no reason why black wouldn't try at this point, because now white is closer to your stone in the corner than white is to white's wall by a pretty big margin. So even if white decided, oh, I'm going to come in and capture, like now black is prepared for the fight. So it's different, right? Spacing is very important. His L16 is good because when you try to fight like this, the fight is going towards the white wall and away from the black stone, just as an example.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, so I actually like the placement of this one. I think this one's fine. As for can white go farther? Yeah, white can just not play towards the upper side at all. White can approach, or white can break another part of the board. White can really do anything in the opening of this game. It's all sort of dependent on what white's whole board handicap strategy might be, and whether or not you know your opponent and how they're going to play into it. Seems here you knew George pretty well. Yeah, and so this one is making sense, right? We're leaning against the corner, preventing development towards the top side, creating a similar shape and like quality between A and B. Clearly A is stronger. This should be better for white. Here, I'm gonna suggest something that might be wrong by AI standards, but I actually don't like this kick here. There are many cases when kick and jump is going to be correct because we're keeping pressure on the opponent, and them invading inside is not really going to be realistic, or if it is, we're okay with the trade. I think on this board for black, if you want to play something corner oriented, I think you should actually just come down to the second line. Don't give white the extra help, because white issued a challenge and you accepted the challenge. You fell into white's instigation by attacking white at 2. So now you guys are starting this fight, this battle on the upper side. There's almost no reason in such cases that you should be giving your opponent extra strength. If you play this jump, you leave behind the ability to slide under at A in the future, which removes white space and white size. Compared to this one, which from the attack and defense standpoint is not going to be so good for black. White's base is going to be much easier to cover, and actually you see white taking that move here. If black cannot answer that move with the inside cut, then this is going to be a really good result for white.
And so what about if instead of kicking, I just jump out at J14, for example?
From the center.
Yeah.
So you could do that, but I think Lance will be very happy with double approach here. So in this case, your cornerstone is paying for the sins of 1 and 2. We also have to remember 1 and 2 by themselves are 0 value stones. Unless they orchestrate some type of crescendoing attack against white's left side wall, which after C10, that doesn't seem like that's ever going to be possible. This is another benefit of that really slow move from earlier. These one, what is the future of the 1 for 2 stone? Like you're jumping out, you're saving at the center, sure, but what next? They don't really have a future. They just exist to live there and stop white from having a potential moyo, I guess. But you're not really doing anything with them. They become a burden at that point. You just have to keep adding moves to save them.
The way I look at it is that white has a huge wall, and so if I can kind of have a light group in the center, then I'm doing a lot to negate a lot of
sure
that wall.
Sure, you are negating the wall to some degree. Like the wall's not going to be useful for making territory, but you have to remember you're also not making territory. So you have to look at the context of what's around it. The situation on the right side, your A stone versus white's double approach, which player is going to make points here? Like that's going to be white's territory by the end of it, right? Like we can imagine, okay, let's say black saves. We can have white do almost anything, but we'll just go with the simple method. White's going to protect at the corner, black's going to fix. If we look at the full-on sort of sequence, in this situation, white's got 15 points that have manifested out of nowhere to black's 3. That means these two exchanges in the center, because they end in go take for black, these two exchanges in the center have cost you 15 points.
We can also say that white's wall has created those 15 points.
Yes.
That's the profit from the wall.
Plus Sente and black's not alive on top.
Yeah, but also it allowed white to get the territory.
And what about this idea?
This one's okay. This one would be fine. This one would be shrinking white's base and giving black the stronger position.
Okay.
It always depends on the inside cuts, though. I think because white has large knight instead of small knight, white can't cut inside as easily, so it looks like it should be fine.
Okay. Then, all this being said, what about the idea of surrounding black?
Possible, but if we imagine the same thing as before, maybe the vital point for white should be here. If black is
black's just weak next to my wall. Okay.
We can force like this, and then whoops, that would be a little narrow. We can play this one, for example, or you can even go as far as here.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, but for that reason, I'm not really a big fan of kick and jump here, because white gets back to the vital point, and now black shape is kind of again very weird. Like this one's hard because if black can't like really fight this, then it ends up becoming kind of tragic. Like black really doesn't want to spend these moves, so it seems like the only way forward for black should probably be this one.
Yeah,
locally.
And I was talking to Lance about so I kicked and came and jumped out, which presumably is attacking white, and therefore I should, in order to be consistent in my play, I need to keep up that attack, right? But the way I played in the game, I pressed him down, which gave him life, and therefore lost the attack, right? So presumably that's inconsistent play.
Yeah, I just think in general the attacking method wasn't good.
Yeah.
You have to kind of understand the shapes at play and how to attack them. The context in the corner is very different because white has the C-stone already. And so in most cases, yeah, this kick would be a great attack against white. If we delete everything from F17 left, this would normally be correct. But the problem is the context is to the left of your J16 stone, there's a big white wall, which means J16 is not as powerful as it usually would be in this shape. And so because of that, it's making more sense for black to attack the group this way, where you're aiming at getting underneath the stones, forcing white into the center. That sort of thing. Because like if we just imagine like later black gets to play something like this, where are white's eyes? Right? White could bend with a move like this, but then at some point you've got this one as well. Right? This type of fighting shape looks like it might be somewhat better for black to handle. Of course, white played away one time in that variation, but that type of thing would be a lot easier to handle than the one that you end up getting into in the game. Because if it just turns into this type of thing, black is feeling very miserable here. But yeah, I agree. This is very inconsistent. And then this Hane connect was also very weak for the center. I think at this point it's better for black to connect here. Because if white plays the connecting move, like white can play this diagonal or even the push to connect underneath. Black can then answer from the center with Hane. And if white like extends to prevent that connection, black can just push down, which is going to help the corner a little bit. Not a lot. White can still invade it, but it will give you some help towards the outside at least. This will be switching condition will become better for black towards the right side. So I think this Hane connect was also a bit incongruent.
I guess I could have Haned and then not connected.
I don't think the Hane was appropriate at all, to be honest. But I also don't like white's connection. I think white could be a little more active here. I think white can cut. If white is worried about Atari connect, white really shouldn't be. Like white can just fix at that point, and then the connection's more efficient. You're getting it by Sente. Then black has to push along out, and then white's getting a lot of good benefits in the center. I think this one's a little bit better for white.
Good.
Because this one is giving black the chance to fix black's mistake naturally, this type of move.
Yeah, I knew when I played it, was like, man, that's an ugly looking move.
Yeah. This one's fine. This one's okay. I think actually here still jumping ahead would be better than connecting. But this connection, like this cut is actually painful, so I can understand why white would want to fix that. I just don't really like that it gives black the chance to fix black. Okay. This one I'm a little bit less fond of. It's good for territory, but I think it's missing the point. A and B are clearly the bigger areas. If black wants to waste more time breaking 5 to 10 points on the left, let him. The white group isn't going to die if black cuts. This is pretty much what he's playing against, George, is not having to have to come back to connect like this to kill. Or because like white can't push down because of the cut. But in this shape, white can just crawl from below. And it's true, like black can play on top to some degree like this, but in this type of shape, white's perfectly alive. So white doesn't really need to worry about it. This would just be a series of endgame exchanges for black.
Good.
Now, if black doesn't have the marked stone, it's a very different story. If we remove that stone from the board, there's a lot of value in white connecting here, because that means later white is now prepared to play this.
Right.
And there's this idea that even somewhere during the sequence, not now, but during the sequence, there's also the weakness of the across attach here. So white will have a lot to look forward in that position too. But when black already has F4, there's no cut in the shape at all. So this one is a bit single purpose move. And then black gets to the big area. I like this one. I think this one should still be here. Because the problem is you enclose, but the sides are so wide, like white's going to get to break them anyway. And the center is still quite big for both. So I really think black should cover white and build the whole center, and then force white to pick a side and just take the other. And I think black is going to be fine. Okay, white has potential for a ko. Black decides to protect the outside. White invades. This is all pretty normal.
So with regards to white playing the ko or setting up the ko, so I got the D3 move in, and in exchange white made a potential ko, but isn't that very beneficial for me on the outside to get that move in?
Yeah, there's some benefit on the outside for sure. But that's okay, because again, when we think about what's the point of invasions, the main reason we invade something is to balance territory. As long as there's a ko there, the corner points are deleted. We don't count them for black. So you got influence, but white balanced the territory, right? Your upper corner currently has maybe this much territory so far. In the bottom left corner, after we think about endgame, is probably going to be something like this. And the top corner is going to be something like this. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 39. Black's almost 40 points. If black was able to keep that corner, it would be a lot more than 30 points, right? But 30 points is a number white can get close to. because white is going to get, we can count something like this for white. And the white territory is not too far off. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 33, right? So we're looking at a difference on board of maybe 7 points as long as that corner's in co. Black has a lot more potential. But if white can handle that naturally by invading and reducing other areas and then sort of working them together through the center, white can still win the game. So yeah, even though it's beneficial to get the move on the outside, and in the terms of like the local shape, it's going to be quite strong. It's also very slow. And white is very happy to successfully balance the territory in Sept by making a co-fight. Here, I'm not a huge fan of your kick. Again, I'm sorry. Much more natural when you're thick on the outside would be the pinch. Why are we trying to dissuade him from coming into our corner? If white comes into the corner now, can white live? Maybe. But if white does find a way to live, it's going to be much better for you on the outside. Again, you have a lot of potential, and you're still leading on points.
Yeah.
So you would only need to convert A or B or C or D. You only need one of the 4 to be winning. The kick is giving more forcing moves to white. You're creating more weak points in the shape for white to attack. For example, there's a wedge at A, there's a hane at B, there's this poking move at C that gets quite annoying that white is set up for with this H3 stone. And all of these extra forcing moves matter on this board, specifically because the corner has been left in co. Which means at any point, if you try to start the co fight while white's got any sort of forcing moves around here, white has achieved the co factory. Pretty much guarantees white's going to do it live in that corner. White is making the sabaki. White is already doing very well. At any point, white can clamp, and the clamp is pretty much going to make white alive. The shape is not 100% alive, but it's very close. Okay, white's removing the co. Yeah. All right, so now, after all is said and done, black got about the expected territory in the bottom left corner, so nothing changed there. White lived with points in the bottom right corner, so that's a gain of about 5 for white, 6. Which puts the territory on board as something like 37 versus 39 by our previous count. But then black gained a few extra points in the center too. So really the last stand is going to be, for white, how much of the A area can white break and how much of the B area can white keep? So white's potential is going to be in the center, surrounding the B stones. And but white needs to do it in a way where white can also break the right side. So the closer we get to endgame, the easier it is to kind of see what white needs to do to win. And so black should be aware of that also at this point.
What do you think about my starting point?
So you're aiming at all the cutting points on the right side.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay, so good. It seems fine. The normal move would be to just play A. This is like the one you learn in textbooks. So this is always the first one I sort of think about, just because this is the book move. But you can always adjust the book move. You should adjust the book move based on the board. Okay. Black could also just as easily start here. You know, it really just depends. Yeah, but like this is already going to be very good for white. Even white can probably just push out. Black connecting underneath would be small and white can hane, so black probably has to extend. And then black can go for the block and then cut.
Yeah.
That's just like small order of move difference. The block is always going to be a Sept regardless. And here white is going for the sacrifice method. Yeah, this is becoming very organic for white. Double hane.
Yeah, I think that was a big mistake.
Yeah, it's very power. full.
My cutting stones die.
Normally in this case, if you do it, you have to do it with the cut first because you need the Hane to be Sente. A lot of the time it is Sente on its own, but when white can answer with moves like this, you would much rather commit white to not playing that move first. So now if white plays here, you just block it like normal. And if white captures like this one, you have the timing to connect. And then from here, you can try to kill white, or you can choose to let white live small. It's really up to you. However you want to go about doing it. But okay, yeah, this one is gonna leave a lot of stuff for white. Even if white ends up dead, white might make the whole center. Although white didn't end up dead, white killed. So now white, I think, has gotten back into the fold a little bit. White's made quite a bit of points in the center already. This one, I like the idea. I think it should be one further. So you have a lot of strength here in the center. I don't think you're worried about white trying to cut. Like if white's playing stuff like this to capture the stones, I think black is very happy with something like this. So we don't need to dissuade white from doing that. Oops, that was not the move. There we go. Because now white has this one, which is quite annoying. And realistically, I guess white had it in both cases, but in this one, it's a little bit easier for white to fight because we're directly peeping white's cut. And then from that point, we can play a much more forcing sequence to draw our stones out. So small difference in the local fighting. But this one, it's a little bit worse. I guess black could just simply connect, but then black's gonna have to deal with jump cut later too. The shape seems to be a little bit flimsy. Yeah. And this is white's proclamation of war in the center. We like this. This is white doing exactly what white is supposed to be doing. Black is looking for cutting. If you're not going to cut directly, though, George, I would actually recommend probably just connecting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you sort of preemptively burn your liberty, and you don't really need to do that. Because like it's very unlikely white's going to play this one next anyway. When you think about it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, white could, but black has many moves to make eye space. Okay, so like it's to clamp the eye space down. Powerful.
So I ended up getting nothing there. And now I'm well behind.
Yeah, this one kind of was like a have to kill situation. I think maybe the better move would have been this one in this case. Even if he plays the same one, can he live? Seems difficult. In this one, you still have... Maybe he's alive. What's the form? Let me think. There's something like this. Looks like we might be able to force a dead form here. And it doesn't really matter if he blocks this way. We can still play the same one. He can't make an eye there. He can't make an eye here. And white should be connected by the virtue of just having enough liberties to be connected.
Yeah.
Right, we can just go all the way up and then cut, and he can never connect because dead. So I think this one is just a case that we just need to play a little bit harder, a little bit more severe.
Yeah, I was thinking I may as well pick up some points while I'm here.
Yeah, and I think now we're prepared enough that we should, especially after black makes the Atari exchange. This exchange that black made in the game is really bad for black, actually. Because you have a real benefit of these stones existing on this board. And that benefit comes in the form of situations like this, where you can force a bunch of different cuts in a bunch of different places to get a bunch of different types of forcing moves. Maybe there's a way to make the clamp or a wedge or something work. And you sort of lose all of that aji the minute white captures. Yeah, but even here, though, is it really over? I wonder about that, because it seems like if at any point we get to here, black needs to find a way to make eyes. I mean, I guess black could try it like this, but I can still come in. The shape is just really awkward. And if black is doing it like this, there's still this move. This one's going to require a lot more reading.
Yeah.
Because in this case, black is going to have things like this Atari, and when white's going to have to think about, oh, can I break like this? But if black is able to secure the second eye, we can't give up the stone, so then we have to extend, and then black can like give Atari, connect, force connect, push through, connect, cut, connect, Atari, connect. Like you get this whole sort of reading situation, but actually black is still dead, so probably it's fine. Easy to say that retroactively, but yeah, white's in a must-kill situation here. If white doesn't kill, then yeah, black is going to be way ahead. But that was because, like, way back, we sort of identified, like, even before all of this, let me just shift-click. White needed to break the A area and get something at B to win.
Yeah.
You know, that was sort of the final stretch of the game there. So this is sort of what we expected to happen, was the game went, how the game went, and then white had the chance. It's just white didn't play hard enough to seize the chance effectively. That was all.
Yeah.
Also here, I think white can even get the one extra push and then cut. It's a small difference, but if the fighting goes in a very similar way, like with black driving through and then connecting, I think this one is a much more pleasant result for white. Just locally speaking, it's much easier to capture. And if George is playing like this one, it's also that extra distance helps.
Yeah. Well,
But okay.
Question over here. Show me some life and death here.
So it depends a lot on how black answers. If black blocks the corner, obviously white can just run. That's the easy one. If this one happens, then there's two different ways we can think about it. If the cuts are working, like if white has working ways to make like this work, for example, Atari break, this could be possible. If black prevents that one, there's this sort of Atari break can be possible. These require ladders, but in some cases, white will play them when the ladder doesn't work, just to set up other forcing moves. If that doesn't work, then white can extend. If black covers from above, white can slide to the corner. If black defends, white can slide to the side. White's going to be able to live with the double knight. There's also the Tesuji method, which is this one, where white plays the inside move first and then makes sure attachment. And the idea is like, okay, later we have things like this that can help break through the shape entirely.
Okay.
Transposing into something like this, for example. If the Hane from above happens, then we can get a very similar shape, the sort of in reverse, where white can do like this, or white can do like this one.
Okay. And we're saying that white is virtually live when he plays there.
Yeah, this one is in a lot of Go books on invasions. And it's pretty sort of, I don't want to say well known, because a lot of players in the West actually don't know this, but in Asia, it's pretty much well known that the stone still lives. Like most Don level players will look at it and go, okay, there's no way I'm going to be able to kill this. You know, once you hit 4 Don, you should be able to make that stone live.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, George.
So that was 37 minutes. Did we want to go the full hour and start looking at the other game? Or?
That we're going to need more than a few minutes for the big one, and I'd like to go over first anyway.
Okay, sure.
So we can decide on that later.
All righty.
Okay, viewers, thanks for stopping by. Catch you all later.